This is the story of a perfect son, a perfect future, and a lie so massive, it ended in blood. To anyone looking in from the outside, 23-year-old Chandler Halderson was winning at life. He lived in a comfortable suburban home in Windsor, Wisconsin, with his parents, Bart and Krista. He was polite, quiet, and seemingly on the fast track to a dream career. According to Chandler, he was a busy man. He claimed to be working a remote job for American Family Insurance while finishing up his degree in renewable energy technology at Madison Area Technical College. But that was just the baseline. The real crown jewel of Chandler's life was an incredible, life-changing opportunity. He told his family he had been hired by SpaceX, yes, Elon Musk's aerospace giant, as a remote worker. Soon, he said, he would be relocating to Florida to work near the launch pads. He talked about beachfront apartments, his generous relocation allowance, and how his hard work was finally paying off. His parents, Bart and Krista, were bursting with pride. They had raised a successful, ambitious young man. But beneath this polished, impressive exterior lay a hollow shell. Every single word of it was a lie. In reality, Chandler Halderson was living a double life of staggering, exhausting proportions. He didn't work for American Family Insurance. He wasn't enrolled in classes at the technical college. And he had never even spoken to anyone at SpaceX. Instead, Chandler spent his days sitting in his bedroom, playing video games, and spinning an increasingly complex web of deception to keep his parents from discovering his secret. To maintain the illusion of his job, Chandler would wake up early, dress in business casual clothes, and pretend to log into a secure work portal. When his father, Bart, asked why he hadn't seen any paychecks, Chandler fabricated a bureaucratic nightmare. He created fake email accounts, posing as fictional human resources representatives, and sent emails to himself, which he then forwarded to his father, claiming there was a massive glitch in the payroll system. When it came to his college education, the deception was even more elaborate. Chandler set up dozens of fake email addresses to impersonate college administrators, advisors, and tech support staff. He would carry on full, multi-person email threads with himself and show them to his father. He even spoofed phone numbers, pretending to be on hold with the college financial aid office for hours while Bart sat in the same room, waiting for answers about why his son's tuition payments were delayed. For months, this fragile house of cards held. But Bart Halderson was an accountant. He was a man who lived by numbers, logic, and hard proof. The endless excuses, the missing paychecks, and the constant bureaucratic delays at the college simply did not add up. Bart began to push. He demanded to see real, physical transcripts. Finally, on June 29, 2021, Bart took matters into his own hands. He bypassed his son and called Madison Area Technical College directly. To his shock, the representative on the line told him that Chandler Halderson was not, and never had been, enrolled as a student in their renewable energy program. Bart didn't immediately confront his son with anger. Instead, he scheduled an in-person meeting with the college administration for the afternoon of Thursday, July 1st. Bart told Chandler that they were going to drive to the campus together, sit down with the officials, and get to the bottom of the misunderstanding. Chandler knew he was out of time. The moment his father walked into that office, the entire illusion would shatter. He would no longer be the successful, SpaceX-bound golden boy. He would be exposed as a fraud who had spent months playing video games on his parents' dime. So, Chandler chose a horrifying way out. On the afternoon of July 1st, shortly before they were scheduled to leave for the college, Chandler walked up behind his father in the family living room and shot him in the back with a rifle. Hours later, when his mother, Krista, walked through the front door after her shift at work, Chandler ambushed her, shooting and killing her as well. With his parents dead, Chandler's focus instantly shifted to self-preservation. Over the next several days, he embarked on a gruesome effort to make his parents disappear. He dragged their bodies to the basement, where he used a saw to dismember them. He then built a roaring fire in the family fireplace, burning portions of their remains over several days, a process that filled the quiet suburban neighborhood with a strange, heavy, putrid smell that neighbors would later vividly recall. On July 7, 2021, Chandler walked into the Dane County Sheriff's Office. With a look of deep, practiced concern, he reported his parents missing. Chandler spun a new story. He told investigators that his parents had taken a spontaneous weekend trip with an unknown couple to their family cabin in White Lake, Wisconsin, to celebrate the 4th of July. He claimed they had packed a substantial amount of cash, left in a hurry, and had not been heard from since. He acted the part of the worried, dutiful son, waiting anxiously by the phone. But the police immediately noticed that something was off. Chandler's story was vague, and his timeline kept shifting. Investigators quickly checked security cameras from the neighborhood. There was no sign of Bart and Krista's vehicle leaving the home on the day Chandler claimed. Instead, the cameras captured Chandler driving his own car at odd hours of the night, loading heavy items into the trunk. The missing persons case rapidly transformed into a homicide investigation, and the evidence began to pile up with terrifying speed. A massive breakthrough came from Chandler's girlfriend's family. They owned a rural, heavily wooded farm in Roxbury, Wisconsin. When police spoke to them, they mentioned that Chandler had visited the farm unexpectedly on July 5th. He had asked to use their pool to cool off, but instead, he had spent hours hanging around a densely wooded tree line at the edge of the property. Detectives rushed to the farm with search dogs. Hidden beneath thick brush and freshly cut foliage, they made a grim discovery: a shallow grave containing the torso of Bart Halderson. He had been shot in the back. Nearby, police recovered a tarp, rope, and cutting tools stained with blood. Shortly after, investigators searched a state-owned wildlife area in the same region and located the remains of Krista Halderson. When forensic teams swept the Halderson family home, the illusion of Chandler's innocence was completely destroyed. Despite Chandler's frantic attempts to scrub the house clean, investigators found blood spatter on the living room walls, the ceiling, and the basement floor. Inside the fireplace, they recovered charred bone fragments, human teeth, and metal buttons from clothing. The digital evidence was the final nail in his coffin. Investigators seized Chandler's phone and computer, uncovering his search history. In the days following his parents' disappearance, he had searched for phrases like "body found in Wisconsin," "how to trace a phone," and "mutilated body found." Furthermore, Snapchat location data placed Chandler's phone directly at the dump sites in the woods on the exact days his parents were missing. In January 2022, Chandler Halderson stood trial for the murder of his parents. The prosecution laid out the mountain of physical, forensic, and digital evidence with clinical precision. They painted a picture of a pathologically lazy young man who was so terrified of being exposed as a liar that he chose to slaughter the very people who loved and supported him. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as prosecutors played audio recordings of Bart Halderson's phone calls to the technical college, capturing the exact moments the truth was uncovered and sealing his own fate. The defense had almost nothing to work with. They called no witnesses, and Chandler declined to take the stand in his own defense. His lawyers could only argue that the state's case was circumstantial. The jury wasn't buying it. After a trial lasting over 2 weeks, they deliberated for just over 2 hours before returning a verdict. Chandler Halderson was found guilty on all 8 counts, including first-degree intentional homicide and hiding a corpse. At his sentencing in March 2022, Chandler was given life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge spared no words, calling his actions a betrayal of the highest order, driven by pure, unadulterated selfishness. The story of Chandler Halderson remains a chilling, cautionary tale about the destructive power of a lie. It is a case that continues to baffle criminologists. How a seemingly normal young man, with no history of violence, could transition so seamlessly from telling harmless fibs to committing a brutal, calculated double murder. For the community of Windsor, the tragedy left a permanent scar. Bart and Krista Halderson are remembered not for the horror of their deaths, but as loving, dedicated parents who died trying to help their son build a life, completely unaware that the life he was building was a nightmare.